So one more time in review, the best practices that I want to remind you about assessment in a remote or hybrid environment is number one, if you are seeing students on campus, save your high stakes, your summative assessments for those days so that you can really ensure security. If you have students taking assessments from home, focus on building culture and community around why we need to be emphasizing knowledge over grades, creating a culture where cheating is discouraged, and being really clear and explicit about our expectations. Then using a lot of different assessment models like game-based assessment, like quizzes, or doing alternative assessments like discussion-based assessments, and also regular traditional assessments like GoFormative. I want to start today by talking about some of my personal best practices. First, starting with quick, easy, formative assessment checks in the form of do nows and exit tickets. Typically, I like to have a do now or bell ringer activity for students once they arrive to class so that we have that bell to bell instruction. Students are learning and working from the moment they enter the room until they leave. Some of my favorite different methods for students completing their do nows and exit tickets, regardless of if they're online or in the classroom, are digital so that I can see those responses in real time and get that formative assessment data even quicker. If I'm teaching on Google Meet or Zoom, sometimes I just ask for responses right in the chat box, particularly with exit tickets. Usually I have to dismiss a student before they can exit out. So if I have that response in the chat box, I can really quickly read it, and then I could say, goodbye, Tyler, goodbye, Belinda, goodbye, Rico, as I see those responses coming in. Now, as an English teacher, it's a little bit easier for me to do exit tickets in the chat box because I'm usually having each student write a unique answer. I like to do vocabulary for exit tickets, so I give a vocabulary word. They each have to write their own sentence in the chat box as their exit ticket. They can certainly learn from each other's sentences, but their sentence has to be their own and unique. So seeing each other's answers, not a big deal. However, if you're doing a math problem and you have one single answer to an equation, you might want to consider a different method for do nows or exit tickets, like a Google Classroom question, Padlet, or a Google form. So let's quickly look at each of these options. I'll start with a Google Classroom question. Jumping over to my test classroom over here. In our classwork tab, we have our big blue plus sign. Once I click that, I have the option to create. This middle option with the question mark is a Google Classroom question. As you can see, it defaults to a short answer, so students can type a short answer response, whether that's a word, a sentence, or a number, or you can switch that to a multiple choice style answer. This is basically like a mini Google form. They'll just have one single multiple choice answer, they click their response, submit, and then you see those responses on your end. If you are doing a short answer question, you can put the question right here at the top. I don't. I like to use that question section to title it just like I normally would any other assignment. So I would do 13 Wednesday, and this would be maybe a do now. And then I would call it, what do you notice? Which is a common do now activity that I'll do. Then in the instructions, I'll give the question. So I might just put the question right there in the middle, or there might be some additional instructions for students to follow, and then they'll read the question. I do this just because I like to keep things organized in my Google Classroom, so having a random question show up, and I'll show you what that looks like in my classwork tab doesn't jive well with my type A self, so I like to label that as I would any other assignment. Over here on the right-hand side, a lot of times these are ungraded. I'm just looking for a little response from students, And again, I can see those responses as they come in. So if I'm using it as an exit ticket, I can narrate as I see responses which students are allowed to either exit out of the room or collect their things and leave if they're in the physical room. One other setting I want to show you is right here at the very bottom. You have this checkbox that says students can reply to each other, and that by default is turned on. Meaning once students submit their responses, they'll be entered into what looks like a chat room style window where they'll be able to see everyone else's response and leave comments. This is great for a lot of different discussions. It's great for sharing work with one another. You decide whether that's applicable for your Do Now activity and turn it on or turn it off. You can also have the option for students to edit answer. I usually turn that on, especially if it is formative. And sometimes I'll leave them both on so students can submit their answer, look at what their classmates read, and if they realize that they might have misunderstood the directions or they want to add to their answer, they can go back and do that. I do encourage students to learn from each other. One other nice feature I just want to show you is that the Google Classroom question is set up just like another assignment. So you could have a video as a part of your Do Now, have them watch a short video and respond, or you can add an image for them to respond to. And in fact, that's a lot of times what I'll do with this What Do You Notice assignment is I'll insert an image or a short paragraph for students to look at through this add button. So maybe we'll search a short YouTube video. So what I always default to about cats. They'll watch this funny video about cats and answer a question for their Do Now. The next one we're going to look at is Padlet. Padlet is similar to a Pinterest board or cork board style. Again, student responses come up in real time on a wall, timeline, or shelf stream style. So again, you can see student responses as they come in real time. Just going to go ahead and log in. And then you can see here, if I go into one of my Padlet boards, down in the bottom right-hand side, students will see this big pink plus sign where they can leave a response. So if your Do Now activity is to choose a few vocab words and write a paragraph with them, they could title it with their name or with any other title like Do Now. They can type their response. And then because this board is live, you'll be able to see all of those responses as they're working, and you can give feedback, you can narrate. And again, if it's an exit ticket, you can narrate who can leave the room. However, there's a lot more to Padlet than just text. I can use this magnifying glass to search the web, and students can insert images, videos, and GIFs. So sometimes a Do Now might include leaving a response and then finding a GIF or an image that corresponds. So if that vocabulary was all about, one of our vocabulary words lately was immense. So if I search that vocabulary word, maybe I can try to find an image that I feel like represents immense. And that may or may not load. There it goes. So all the students can see that visual representation. And it is collaborative, so all students would be able to see each other on this board.